left off the last time, anxious to see how the video would turn out, and I was really pleased. I've already posted it on YouTube, so I'm going to move on with this demonstration of the initial pass of wood burning. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why I like to use oil when I do fine wood burning like this. When you use acrylic paint, because it's water-based, it's important to seal that wood so that the water doesn't penetrate and raise your grain and ruin all of the texturing and wood burning work that you've done on your bird. So in order to make sure that you do not have this happen with acrylics, you have to seal the surface completely with polyurethane or some sort of a varnish, and so that the water cannot penetrate, period. So with painting in oils and this fine wood burning, the sealer that we use is, or that I use, is Kurt's Waterfall Corners TK's Rapid Dry sealer. It's really thin. It's not thick like polyurethane, and it really penetrates the surface, yet it leaves the surface open, and your oil paint actually goes into the wood and penetrates the wood, and the color and the pigment also go into the wood. And when you don't have to seal all of the wood like you would with acrylics, you can still have undercuts and much more complete detail. A completely sealed finely wood burn surface is going to fill in that detail. It can't not fill it in. And then on top of that, to make it so that the sealed surface will accept paint, the water-based paint, so it doesn't beat up, it's also sometimes, and most of the time, I find I need to use gesso, so that it actually allows the surface then is prepared and can accept the acrylic paint. So not only do you have polyurethane, then you have the gesso, and then you have the paint. With oil, you have the TKs, and then you have the oil paint, and that's actually penetrating the wood. So I find that the softness that really grabs the eye that you see in an oil painted head is, or bird at all, is just much more realistic. It requires a lot less painting because all of the work is being done with the texture, and when you seal it all up with polyurethane, you have to go back and add the depth of the shadows that you don't get with the undercuts that I'll be able to leave open using the TK sealer. So I'm checking my evenness from side to side, and I've actually gone back a little further on this side, so I'm going to catch that up on this side so that I can remain even. And we start getting to the back of the head cheek area here, it's got more feather clumps, much more texture to it. You want to be sure to burn accordingly. Otherwise you're going to lose all of that cool detail that you spent the time putting in. There's a little bit of a hard spot here. When you run into a hard spot like that, slow down. It'll take a little bit longer to burn because it is a hard spot. But then beware of what's going on right next to it, because it'll be probably a soft spot. You know, the grain lines are what's hard in the wood. And it's the wood that's in between, soft wood, that your tool will fall into, whether it's a wood burner or a texturing stone or even your diamond bit. It'll ride up on the hard grain line, the dark grain line, and then it'll fall in between into the soft wood and create these caverns. And essentially what's going on is it's accentuating the grain lines even further. So when you're finishing off any one of these steps that I've mentioned, whether it's carving or texturing or burning, it's important to take a look at that grain line and make sure that you haven't left those showing in your work. Recognize them and go back and hunt them down. And there's some darker burning going on here because of the softer wood right here. Turn it down just a titch. Some of my students want to know how much is a titch. Just a little tiny bit. Just like in every other step, whether I'm drawing my patterns or sketching onto my bird or carving individual feather detail, bill detail, anything like that, I'm using this pinky as a support, and it gives me stability. And using my pinky gives me the ability to rotate and have a nice radius. Some people like to hold their pencils like this, and in doing so they're losing a lot of the radius that they could have if they were to only use the thumb, the index, and the middle finger in this way. It's really difficult to teach somebody not to do that anymore if that's how they were taught from as a small child. But you'll hear me saying to my students, it doesn't take too long, but tell them use your pinky. Use your pinky, or I'll say use your thumb, because we are gripping something like this. Use your thumb. Use your pinky. Gives you the radius and the support. Now I'm getting into some of these deeper carved feather clumps, and as I carve them, I'm sorry, as I burn it, I want to make sure I'm burning the entire contour of the, the upper side and the lower side in the middle as well, not just pushing it straight all the way through. I want to give it some contour with my strokes. Turn it down just a little bit. Amazing how hot this is getting. I don't really have a bunch of appliances running or anything. This can be very tedious. It's not for everybody. Sometimes after I get done doing a decorative, like a full-out decorative like the loon with chicks or the Madagascar grebes, I just need to break away and do something really simple. This time I did flickers, flicker decoys for the Minnesota Decoy Carving Club project, educational project. We all carved our flickers, which was a program that I did at the for the Chesapeake Challenge and the Carvers of the Future, where the National Endowment for the Arts sends funding through the Ward Museum of Wildfowl Art, and teachers from all of the United States are invited from different flyways and wildfowl flyways, waterfowl flyways, like the Mississippi, and the flyway goes right through Minnesota. Anyway, and we are asked to find youth, young carvers that we can teach how to carve a decoy from start to finish. And then the instructor goes out and brings the students' works, which are competed at the Chesapeake Challenge, in a special NEA youth division. And it's really a wonderful program that the Ward Museum is responsible for making happen. What would we do without our youth? So if you can teach a young carver, that's a special thing to pass what we do on to new generations. I have a young 9-year-old who is coming to spend a couple of hours with me. He's watching some of my YouTube videos and deciding, what is it that he would be interested in doing, if anything. He really likes airbrushing and paint. He likes painting, and his father's gotten him an airbrush, so he's going to be playing around with his airbrush and some recommended paints, and then coming over and spending some time and seeing if there's, he hunts. He's painted smoothie hunting decoys, or even plastic ones, and done a really great job. So I'd like to get him going on the real thing. So we're going to see if we can do that in this upcoming couple weekends from now. Very exciting. When I come back on the second pass, I'm going to show you how you can move the tupelo with the wood burner when it comes to individual barbs. Manipulate it the way you'd like it to be. So excited to have finally found a way to support my camera in a position that gives everybody the view they need to see the technique. I'm just going to keep wood burning on this until this side until the camera shuts down. I get about 23 minutes, which for some reason is how it is on all cameras. 23-minute length on video being shot in the cameras. I did some research. I thought, well, I want to find a camera that'll like go for an hour if I have enough space on my card. And they actually don't have them, at least that I could find. I was surprised to learn that it's a standard. So So if the camera shuts off in the middle of a conversation, I may have to pick it up again on the beginning of the next video. I don't usually do everything in real time like this, but perhaps a better understanding of what it takes to get to the final result will happen, and those who view this video, they see it just doesn't happen overnight. A great deal of patience is involved. Kind of a special breed of carver who wants to do decoratives. And when I'm doing a decorative like this, I kind of said it earlier that, you know, all the fine detail work is already done when you're going to paint for oil. But in acrylics, even if you have gone in and burned it, there's a lot of shadow depth that's lost, which means you're losing some of the depth and shadow of the coloration that will happen when you paint. So you have to add it back, which is more work. So I prefer to take the time to get all of this added in